Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back at the back. This is like, what did we do the other day? There was some other thing that was, oh no, it was. Lally and I helped make a film a few years ago called A Year in a Field, and we showed it in a field, so it was a year in a field in a field. So welcome back at the back, a similar sentiment. I'm not going to say very much about what's happening here. All I am going to do is show you a film that's very, very short, and then from there I'll crawl on, change the presentation, and then we'll go straight into it. So with no further ado, I'm going to start with this film, and you're in for a treat. Oh, actually, do I need to turn the music off, Paul? Spoiler. Okay. Everyone ready?
Let wild gods rise, land, sea and skies, through turning year of swallow flight and blossom bright, while wild trouts swim in waters clear, and lichens map the ancient's tomb. Lark flies, curlew cries at moon's rise, and raven speaks, and spirits rest, while seals sing for soul's ease. Land, sea and skies, let old gods rise.
Old stones stand in wait, chalk streams, myths gate. Good evening, and thank you for staying, and what a wonderful room to be in with so many people.
Yeah, we were thinking about how this has got a kind of nature folk theme, and when we came up for the title of our book, folk has so many meanings, and we were thinking about the folk that inhabit the wild world. So folk, not just meaning people, but all the animals. We think of animals as people. So that's our sort of little introduction to where wild folk came from.
Shape-shifting, and we have many stories of shape-shifting, but what we're going to do is we're going to run through a PowerPoint that shows a little bit of the making of our book, tells a bit of the story of that, and then we thought we'd send you off with a bedtime story, yeah? Which hopefully you'll like. So, this is Tamsin, I'm Jackie. Tamsin did all the artwork in this book, and I wrote the words. Which came first? I'm not entirely sure, but the amazing thing is that the illustrations are all worked in glass, and this is one of the pieces of glass before anything's been done to it.
Yeah. We
met first as friends, and this really was the first time that Tamsin came to my house. We were doing a swap, some of my paintings for some of Tamsin's glass. I live in Pembrokeshire. Robert McFarlane, who I also work with, told somebody once that I lived under a rock in Pembrokeshire. This is not true. There are rocks that make up my house, but I do live in a small house. But I live hard by the Pembrokeshire coast path, not far from Carrick-Sanson, so the start of this was just making me a little bit homesick. What we decided to do was to go for a walk. I asked a friend of mine to make me a garden gate, and the lesson that I learned was never ask a Dutch lesbian to make you a garden gate before you determine the size of it. And Tamsin was going to there were going to be glass holes in this. Now, garden gate, I was thinking like bits of wood, crisscrossed about this high. Anyway, we went for a walk. It was a good walk. That's that's very random. This is where you haven't looked at your PowerPoint.
Yeah, we
properly.
sort of jumped from how we met, which is the very, very beginning of the book, to how the book sort of started.
Yeah.
Which was.
I'm going to flick forward.
Yeah, let's flick forward through that.
This is where the book was born, in this house called Northmore. This is the garden gate. So, it's beautiful and it makes my garden very, very private. But I owed Tamsin far more than one painting after Astrid had got going on this. We saw.
And it took many years as well to complete.
Yeah.
We didn't see a sea hare.
We didn't see a sea hare.
No.
But everything else I think we saw. And this is one of my cats who likes to be everywhere, including in PowerPoints. So
what I hadn't realised is that this wall or gate would be a sort of premonition of what would happen with the book, in that I had gone to meet Jackie really for the first time at her home, and we went for that beautiful walk and we saw all the birds and animals that we needed to see, I want to be in this, I want to be in this.
yeah.
But yes, I ended up doing an awful lot more work than I thought.
Yeah. So when we got together at Northmore, I'm going to go back here now. So our publisher was Unbound. That is another story. I don't really want to talk about it. If you want to know more about it, just Google it and then weep for us. But it grew out of friendship, mine and Tamsin's, and with John Mitchinson, who was the founder of Unbound. And we'd gone to this place in Exmoor called Northmore House. The idea being that we would gather there together, a group of creatives, we all had our own rooms, did what we wanted during the day, and then in the evenings we gathered together around food. And I am nosy and I have big ears. So I heard Tamsin and John talking about this book.
Well, I was talking to John, I think we were talking about Alan Garner, who is a mutual inspiration for us and many other people here, I'm sure. And I said, I made some stained glass work for an exhibition which was inspired by the Owl Service. So I was showing him these pictures on my phone, and he said, we should really work out a way to do a book together. And I said, yeah, that would be great. And he was thinking of old folk tales, things that were, easy.
He was thinking on the cheap,
out
of copyright,
out of
folk
copyright.
tales. And I was thinking, geez, you can't use Tamsin's glorious work on old tellings because the language is so different now, and there's this real vibrant upsurge of folk tales and retellings, and the writing's got to be really good. So I started bobbing around in the background going, excuse me, I've got some stories, I've written some stories, maybe we could do something together. And they took absolute bugger all notice of me.
Well, for about a minute.
Well, I got louder. That's how it is. So that's how the book started. This is another piece of mine that I have in my house. I put this in so you can see how filthy I am. This is all the dead wood lice in my house. I'd always rather be painting or writing than doing housework, and I think, it's living proof. But it's a lovely piece of glass.
Yeah, and this was for an exhibition I did all around the ballad, and that's a book still to be done, which I would love to do.
This is a stone bothering, which we've done quite a lot of, really. When I first moved to Wales, I was really fortunate in meeting Mairead Hopwood, who is a poet. She's a wonderful first language Welsh poet, and she is now Archdruid of Wales, which makes me cool by proxy because she's my friend. And she said to me, Jackie, the thing about Wales is all you need to do is listen to the stones, and the stones will tell you stories. So I spend a lot of my time with my ears pressed up against the skin of a stone.
And this and the next picture, are from Macquarie Moor on the Isle of Arran, which is where I first fell in love really with standing stones and ancient sites. And funny enough, was introduced to them by, well, our father and my uncle, who were both vicars, so not all vicars are against. Well, I mean, the thing is, we don't really know what ancient sites were built for. And anyway, there's a whole thing about paganism and Christianity, we don't need to go there. But needless to say, I think the incredible thing about these places is that people from all different backgrounds and political views can go there and, you know, find a certain solace and sanctuary there.
Sanctuary of the mind. And you've met some amazing beings, haven't you? Like,
yes, in fact, this evening, on that particular evening, there's a real greed sometimes, I think, in our need for experiences of nature. You know, like, oh, you know, I really want to see this, or this experience won't be fulfilled if I don't see X, Y, or Z. But in fact, that evening, everything happened. We saw hares, and then just as we walked up to the stone circle, this curlew sort of flew in and sat on the top of one of them on the far right, and then just flew on, you know, that haunting cry. Yeah, still sends shivers down my spine, yeah.
I don't know which came first, the writing or the images. With some of the stories, I already had the bones of them. But so Tamsin had started work on images, really, hadn't you? With the black fox, and I did kind of hint that maybe she should hold on that one because I had other plans for it. It needed to expand. It was going in a very different direction. But I when I write, I tend to do it outside. I carry a notebook and pen up to the top of the hill. It's usually an ink pen, or now occasionally I write in pencil, which is very radical for me. And the writing's going in all directions, and then I have to come back and I do type it up on a computer. I'm tempted to just type on a typewriter and post the manuscript these days. Really trying to get away from the digital, she said, pressing the PowerPoint button. With this story was dedicated to Sam Lee because he became a character in the story. But I spent a lot of time on the beach knitting. I was walking very badly, and sadly still am because I've just done something to my tendon. But walking is one of the ways that I get my inspiration, and being in wild places rather than cities, that's where my soul is at ease. So I couldn't walk, so I was taking my knitting to the beach and finding the words in between the stitches of knitting. And I quite like this bit where I said, what is it that she wants, and how do you knit the sea? And I still don't know the answers.
And also, so Jackie would be on the beach writing, you know, brief notes or beautiful sentences, and then she'd just record it on the phone to me. So I'd be in Herefordshire, and this is where it's different from, you know, somebody writing a book and somebody illustrating it afterwards, is that it was very much a cooperation, wasn't it, and a back and forth. And also, when you're working in a visual medium, to be able to just listen to the words is so much more intuitive and, you know, quick to then work on sketches and things.
Yeah, and Tamsin would send me sketches, and there was a couple of times. One time I loved when you stopped me changing the owl's tale, which I'd written a long time ago. It's the story of Blodaiwith. And I was going to extend it, and she said, "Don't you dare touch it." And I thought, I better not, because she's a bit of a witch. I don't want to change that. Other time, I never told. Oh, I know there was one thing, wasn't there? We when it comes up in the slides, I'll say that bit. Did you want to talk about your light box a bit or not?
This is just a brief image that gives an idea of. So all the work is made in glass, stained glass, and these are all the different methods that I use for working. very simply. So the top image is what I call scratch painting. So that's where I've matted the whole surface of the glass with this glaze, which is ground up with a pestle and mortar, and then scratch back into it. So that's really magical because the colour of the glass and the image sort of appears. I mean, okay, so I'm doing it, but it's just got a lovely...
It doesn't always feel like that though. Sometimes it feels like it's doing you, doesn't it? When
Well,
you're
yeah.
really deep in a painting,
Yeah.
or in writing. You know,
Yeah.
I lose myself in writing in the way that I lose myself in reading.
Yeah,
But I do always turn to books, really.
yeah. And then the one on the bottom left, is it left? Yeah. Instead of covering the whole surface, you just use it like an ink. And because glass is non-porous, all sorts of interesting effects happen, usually that you're not intending, but those are the great fun things to follow on with. And then this one here is engraved, so some glass is what's called flashed, which means it's mainly one colour, usually clear glass, and then it's got a very, very thin layer of colour on one side. And by using different methods, acid etching or sandblasting, or in my case, engraving with a drill, you can remove that colour. And then this is one of the illustrations from the book, and that's the actual place, which is a place called Mounsey, which was very important, so the white hair story. But also, unashamedly, I do work from photographs, and I don't have a problem with that, and I think, yeah, that's how I do it. Also, it's really difficult to work outdoors in glass. You can do sketches, but it's just not the same.
So the book is about shape-shifting, and it's curious to me that glass itself is a shapeshifter from start to finish. It's an alchemy, isn't it? It's chemistry, it's...
Yeah, shamefully, even though I've been working in glass for well over 20 years now, I'm not really up on the physics or the chemistry of it.
She will be soon, I'm telling you.
People do tell me about it, but it is starting as sand. So
But sand was stone.
It's stone. Sand was
Yeah.
stone, so it's tails from the stone in another way. And you're turning sort of not base metal into gold, but stone into this luminous, clear, beautiful material it's really astonishing. So as a material, a medium for using a tale, to express tales about shape-shifting, it's just perfect.
And then there is this thing which I think now is debated, but it is liquid. It remains liquid. It just moves really slowly.
Yeah.
And you can see that in really old buildings. You can see it kind of sliding down and thickening. But I love that shape-shifting element. This is you picking out your palette, isn't it?
Yeah, so that great big rack of, those are the medium-sized pieces of glass, and I've got them all vaguely colour coordinated and sorted. So yeah, instead of having a paint palette where you've got your paints and you can mix them together, I have to select from what I've got. And I mean, often that's the longest process because each slight variant in the colour will give a different mood, a different season, a different time of day. But yeah, it's lovely doing it.
And this is working on the light box.
So these are the first sketches that I did for Wild Folk, and when we had our exhibition and book launch, I had some of my sketchbooks with me, and there was one woman who came up later and said, "Oh, I'm really glad you brought your sketchbooks because I've been creatively blocked for years now, but now I see how you use your sketchbooks, and you needn't be precious about it at all."
Yeah, you can do shitty little marks
You
in
do.
the book. It's like thinking out loud in a sketchbook. It's not meant to be seen. So you're very vulnerable, I think, when you show people your sketchbooks,
Yeah.
because it's like going, this is what the inside of my head looks like.
And my excuse is that
I actually like
sketching
this
is completely
sketchbooks.
different to working on glass. So all you can do is give yourself an idea and then you work on the glass.
Yeah, and and also sometimes if you put too much into that sketch,
Yeah.
you don't need to do the finished thing, because
Yeah.
every piece of art is about asking yourself questions and answering them. So if you've answered them all in the sketch, then you've gone too far, really. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it.
And then this is just sort of illustrating that thing of searching for the right palette. So again, this is one of the double page spreads, and I was just looking for the right greens to give that feeling of early summer. And that's just how I do it, by putting everything on the light box.
That's just how I do it. It's that easy.
And then this is a little sort of run through process of one of the panels. So this is from the Black Fox's Tale. And so I would start with a rough sketch. It's called a cartoon with the lead lines drawn on in black pen. So obviously you've got space then for the leads to go. And then cut the glass. And then this one was matted over. So that's part way through that process. And then a bit more.
I kind of don't want to go through this too fast because there's so much detail in these. They're so beautiful.
So I think that was at the point where I decided to stop. I think even with this one I might have put a little bit of dark back in, having thought maybe I'd taken too much out. It's difficult to know when to stop.
It's do you, when you're starting, do you find it difficult? Because I'm always terrified of the blank piece of paper.
No, starting's alright. It's when you get 3/4 of the way through.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's when you feel like you might mess it up. And there's the finished piece.
And that's with the leading.
Yeah, so there's a lead
Tamsin's
paint.
favourite thing to do.
Yeah.
Leading up. Mine is stretching pieces of paper.
Yes.
Thankless Tamsin. This we put in for your entertainment because Tamsin sent me this picture, and if you look very closely, can you point?
I don't need to point.
There's
If
a-
you can see it, you
There's
can see
a
it.
border terrier face underneath the owl, and she
Peeping
sent
out.
she sent me this and went, oh my god, I thought I was doing really well, and then I noticed there's a border terrier in this, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So she killed it. Look, because she's so cruel. I'm just gonna. Now you see it. Now you don't.
Shame it's not good.
It's almost a shame that it's not in the book, really, because I like having an in-joke, really.
Yeah, and this is just another of the illustrations going through the process. The great thing about glass is it's got two sides and you can look through from one side to the other, so you can work on both sides. So I engraved the sword on one side and then also painted into that, and then painted on the other side the stone. And then that's again like a sketchbook, so I'm just constantly working out ideas on the glass, and in the end I thought no, just don't do too much.
Pare it back.
Yeah.
Pare it back. And then we pared it even further back for the book because it took the colour away from around it.
So the only
Can we talk a bit about our book launch?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so when you've got a publisher that suddenly isn't a publisher anymore because they're just a travesty, and you don't know quite whether, having hired a house in the middle of Exmoor, Simmons Bath House, and Tamsin had all her work, and the book had just about gone to press and it was being printed in Turkey, and we were told that they'd actually been delivered to a dock somewhere in the south of England, and then the day of the book launch, by some amazing miracle, the place that the books have been sent to is 20 minutes drive away from where your book launch is. So we actually drove to the warehouse ourselves and picked up our books in time for the book launch. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, would you say?
Just a bit.
My temper hasn't quite recovered yet, but I play a long game. So, But we had this beautiful place hired, and it was hung so fantastically by Tamsin and by Seven Fables, who had organised the whole thing. Originally the publisher said, of course you want 30 books, and they went, no, actually we'll have whatever you can take. And we managed to sell 320 in a book launch, which is pretty good, really. But just having the things there, you know, was such a relief. And it was beautiful. And people came and they celebrated. And even we had a wonderful lady who said, can I come and play the harp for you? This lady called Sarah Dearjohn, who I keep calling Sarah Deerhound. But it was like quite a breathing out after quite an intensely, what would you say, difficult time?
Yeah, just a bit.
That's an understatement. Anyway.
But we did get the book.
Yeah.
We have got a book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We chose to go forward where some of our colleagues didn't, because we had £80,000 worth of pledges' money tied up in our book, and if we hadn't gone forward with our book, they would have had no book and no money back, and we couldn't see that happen. Meanwhile, Tamsin's friend, Jackie, said to Tamsin, I really love seeing the glass, and instead of putting the pieces on the light box, which is easy, and taking a photograph, yes?
yes.
I said, do you think we could actually take every piece to where the real place is, where the story is, and photograph them in natural light? And we decided that was going a bit too far.
We did try it, didn't we, on the beach?
Yeah, but it's if you've
Yeah.
ever tried to photograph glass, it's really difficult, isn't it?
And you need to hang it, and you need to have a clear sky.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So this is the solution that Tamsin found to actually photographing all the pieces of glass, and it's over to you now with this one.
So I was puzzling about this for a long time, thinking, how would I manage it? Because, you know, where we live, we've got trees around, and you can't hold everything right up to the sky, or you get hands in the way. And then a sort of friend, colleague, a guy called Simon Howard, who's an amazing stained glass artist, put a post on Instagram, and it was a panel of glass floating with the sky behind it. And I just immediately messaged him and said, how did you do that? And it was so simple. He said, but he said, if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. And Instagram removed the comment and told him that they would remove him for insightful comments. So, and basically, it was just putting a sheet of glass. He was just resting it on a couple of chairs. So I actually invested in a shower screen, thinking that would be a bit safer than an ordinary piece of glass, and it'd be nice and clean. And I had to rush out of my workshop every time the sky was right, which was not often, so it had to be cloudy enough that there was not too much blue sky, and bright enough that all the colours and detail would come through. Not raining, not too many insects.
Perfect, easy.
Yeah, and then because you're taking a photograph against the sky and glass is reflective, then you've got the issue of the camera reflecting onto the glass. So yeah, it was a bit of a palaver, and a lot of day outs that I had planned had to be cancelled, because I'd be like, oh no, I've just got to do this right now.
But it was a good idea.
It was a good idea, and you'll see why in a minute. So that's a piece of glass photographed on the light box, which is great. And then this is it as we used it in the book, photographed against the sky. And I think that's one reason a lot of people have been saying that they can't believe how, even though it's printed paper, there is still a luminous quality to the images. And I think it is partly because Jackie was right.
But these are the bits I love. It's the texture of the glass and the bubbles held in the glass, the air that's inside the glass, photographed through the air that's outside the glass. And, you know, I guess nobody who doesn't come to a talk will know that, and maybe it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but I just love things like that, especially if I don't have to do the work. And this is the other thing that amazes me. We're back to the shape-shifting power of glass now. So it's all mouth-blown sheet glass, and I can't get my head around it, even with the pictures and the explanation.
Yeah, so this is a place that doesn't exist anymore. It used to be an elf church just outside Birmingham, which was very convenient for me, just living in East Herefordshire. And there was one guy called Walter who blew the glass into these cylinders. So these cylinders here are about this big and that wide. And I think he was about 67 or 68 by the time the whole outfit closed down. So although they wanted him to move to Oxfordshire to kind of carry on there, he decided not to.
It's heavy, isn't it?
It's a heavy old thing, and yeah, really, really, you have to be really strong. Obviously, he'd been doing it all his life. Oh yeah, let's quickly. So this is Walter, and we've just got a few little pictures. So this is the initial stage of gathering on. You've got the clear glass gather, and then you put the coloured chunks of a sort of, it's like intensely pigmented glass, and then it goes in the blowhole. So it's constantly going in and out of heat and being manipulated. First, everything. The thing I also love about it, my husband is a woodworker, and all of the moulds used in glass are wooden, usually oak. So this is the initial stage of getting it just the right shape.
So that's ancient craft as well,
Ancient,
isn't it? I wonder
yeah.
what's happened to all the old moulds with them closing.
Probably
I hope they're not ornaments in Airbnbs. That would be tragic.
So then to get the draw the weight of the glass down into these long cylinders, you actually just use the weight of the glass and swing it. So yeah.
It's amazing shape-shifting.
Yeah, but the one, that's a sad story, and a lot of people, I mean myself included, I'm afraid I did hoard a lot of their glass, so I got quite a good supply. But there is a young guy in Stourbridge who's now, he had a bursary from Heritage Crafts Association to go to America, where there's an even older man who's like 74 who is still mouth-blowing sheet glass in this way. And Elliot Walker, who also won Netflix, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called now, Blown Away show. He is learning to make sheet glass. He's making really beautiful sheet glass, and he's also making it bespoke. So if there is another book, it might well be that Elliot is also part of that, you know, that I'll ask him to make particular things and he'll be able to do that.
I like that, if there is another book, because I do recall Tamsin not long ago going, I'm never doing this again. So, this is where we wish to read to you. I'll just introduce this story a little bit. It was before just after I'd had my knee operation, and I wasn't walking very well. Got half a new knee. It's really good. Got a great scar. Brilliant. So I do a lot of work with Robert McFarlane, he writes the books and I do the illustrations, because he's really shit at painting, but he's really good at writing, so it seems to work that way quite well. He was at the time working on his river book, and he was travelling down the river in Canada, the river that almost drowned him. So he was moving down a river, and I'd managed to walk to the river in Nevin, and I was sat beside a river, letting the river tell me stories. So this book, this part is dedicated to Robert McFarlane, who followed the river.
She sits still beside the river.
He wanders hollow lands and hilly lands, barrows and burial mounds, circles and stones, searching. Did he question how she knew his name, a stranger who, as fire burned inside his mind, had come to this place? Apple blossom at the time of red berries, river's edge, day's edge, mothlight and starlight, and the time of full moon in the daylight sky, a time of wild magic.
A hazel wand, a berry bright, stars aligned, owl flight. She sits still beside the river. She remembers the lure of the berry, bright its taste in her mouth, the lift and the shock as water became air, and silver she rested on riverbank. Full moon, bright moon, light on the water, and falling star as she turned, silver scales shimmering, lungs tasting air. How did she know his name? She watched him kindle flame from gathered twig, blow the flame to dance with light. Fire glow glimmered on her dress, silver like the scales she wore in river life. Apple blossom crown resting on wet hair. She swayed in the current of air. He looked up across flame light. Rising moon made a halo for her head. Dark beauty, silhouette, apple blossom, desire.
Moth
Mothlight, bats fly, otter's breath, heron's cry. Into this moment she spoke his name, then turned upstream and ran, fading as the morning star into the mist, taking his heart, his longing, his breath away.
He wandered hollow lands and hilly, asking, searching, seeking, yearning for the apple blossom beauty of her that never faded in his memory, wishing only to hold her hands, to kiss her lips. He searched, following the paths of moths. He followed dreams and streams from Swallowhead Spring to Winterbourne, across narrow becks and rivers wide, and down beside the sea he spoke with fishing folk. In spring, seduced by scent, he found himself in orchards, blossom heavy, and whispered to the bees who danced a pattern that sang of his longing.
She sat still on riverbank, beside the trees, as water moved restless through long summer days, sun-warmed short nights through autumn's harvest moon heavy. Full, leaf fall, berry bright, listening as river song changed with the seasons, with falling rain, with winter freeze, with summer droughts, with autumn leaves. When ice wrapped rivers bank in glowing light, when summer seeds caught in rivers flow. Still she sat, statue still, waiting. Birds came and went, and some brought news of him, and all the while the water rushed, restless, full with life, towards the sea.
And still he searched beneath the fairy hills, in caves water carved from stone, through winter freeze, through summer rain. At Callanish he asked the shining one who simply pointed back along the path his footprints left through spider webs rich with diamond dew. In northern lands he spoke with Coventina, drank at the well where the white hart drinks, listened, watched, hope in heart.
To rook call,
raven flight, jay feathers, eyes bright with longing. And when the acorns came, he spoke with the spirit of the white-leaved oak, whose leaves sang, go back, through borderlands to Cymru, to Alba and the islands, and Albion where his horse lame, he paid a silver coin, and Wayland made bright shoes. But when he asked the smith about the silver lady of his dreams, he stilled the hammer. The wren sang into the silence. Looking skyward, he simply said, go back. With these words hammering in his head, to Kernow, where on a stone he found a labyrinth, weary now with wandering in hollow lands and hilly, he lingered, trace the pattern's pathway in, the pathway out, and in his mind, go back. Old now, weary with wondering, fire still burning in mind, body aflame with the pains of age, fire in joints, hair thinned and grey and back bent, eyes dimmed, he sought again the place of hazelwood and rowanberry and bright stream. Moonlight on water, moths on the wing, trout rise, owl call, the slow flight of the heron.
As water moves and she sits still, apple blossom crown, otter curled in arms, still as fresh as that first day when stars were fading in the brightening air. Through clouded vision he saw, or thought he saw, the moth-like stars, the glimmering and gloaming, the girl. She called him by his name again, but words were lost in river flow. A third time, and held out her hand as he stepped towards the vision and placed his old unsteady hand in hers. As otter slipped to stream, she cradled his body, sat him down in moonlight dappled grass, and he wished only now to die in the curve of her warm arms, here where water flowed between the light of night and day. She took out a comb, began to comb the ragged grey, and with every stroke the hair grew longer, thicker, stronger, darkened in the wakening light. And each movement of the comb eased the fire inside the mind, dulled the burning joints, until, as stars flickered out, blinded by day's light, he became again the young man who so long ago had hooked the berry to a thread. She turned his face towards the light and kissed his lips and held his hand.
Heron's brook, kingfisher's stream, wild rose thorn, brown trout's gleam.
New moon, star bright, ink dark, moth flight. Slow flight, heron's wing, deep in wood, owl sings.
Thank you. Matthew's running now from the back. He's got a microphone. Oh no, he hasn't got a microphone. Are you all okay? We didn't put you to sleep.
How about some questions? Should we take some questions?
What, from other people, not from us? Because we could ask them questions.
Well-
Or,
Well, let's start there.
yeah, okay.
Any questions?
Because if you don't, we will. Have you got any?
Well, yeah, I have actually. Well, I'm really curious about the beginnings of all of this project, because you said about the exchange of works between the two of you, but this has grown way beyond just the beginnings of a friendship. It's grown into something else entirely, and it doesn't feel like the end either. It feels like there's a collaboration here that's sort of ongoing as well. It's like the beginning perhaps rather than the ending of a project.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I love the film. You know, I just asked my mate Jerome if he would read some of my words, and he sent them. And then it was Tamsin's son who put the visuals with and made the music. And so now we'd quite like to do the Silver Trout with Jerome's voice in there as well, to make a longer film. So he has said yes, he'll do it.
I think it's like as Lally was saying, that everything is quite organic, and
Yeah.
although, you know, we've been friends for many years,
Still friends,
and we're still friends,
despite this.
but, you know, just we've created a book, and now we're finding a way of, presenting it to people.
And it's
And
an
that's quite good fun.
uncanny book, isn't it? So
Yeah,
I
it
have
is
to
uncanny.
tell you this story. So today we got a train. First of all, I drove to Kingdom, and we went past this quite interesting place called the Wild Rabbit. And anything with wild in, we think we ought to go there. Anyway, the train station was really unusual. There was a man there, a person, you know, like they used to have in the old days. And the man said, "Really sorry, your train isn't coming. There's another one in an hour." So we went to the Wild Rabbit with our wild folk, and there was a well, and it was just a beautiful circle, and you know, it was a photo opportunity. So I put the book on top of this glass, took a photograph, ordered our drinks, went outside, put the book on the table, and the young lass comes out with our coffee. And what's her name?
Beth Wood.
Beth Wood. And she went, "Oh my God, I've just finished reading that book." And it's just like, and I went, "Did you like it?" She said, "Yeah." So, but that, you know, uncanny, really uncanny. There's something about books. I love the democracy of books. You know, we both sell our work, and you have to have a lot of money to buy it. But with a book, you can go to a library and take it out. This is what keeps me doing books, really. Always.
Yeah, and I think I have been saying, oh, life was a lot easier when I just made work and sold it through galleries. But what a lot of stained glass artists do, which I don't really do, and I sort of feel slightly bad about, is they do create more public works for churches, or I have done one for a hospital, so that was good. But this is like my public work, and also it's a hymn to glass, and it's I just, you know, would really love for people to fall in love with glass as well, and for it to become more of a viable thing again.
Because it's not just animals and plants that are on the red list, crafts are on the red list as well, and one of the crafts that's on the red list is stained glass.
Yeah.
Glass blowing must be as well.
Oh yeah.
But I love the cooperation, the collaboration of it all. You know, a lot of the time as artists we sit in our little places talking to our imaginary friends, because nobody else will be friends with us, let's face it, and in our own little strange worlds. But with something like a book, we had a team of publishers behind us, we had a team of people, we had a fantastic designer who
we haven't talked about him.
He
He's
is
amazing.
Yeah, he is absolutely incredible and very dapper. I actually call him Dapper Dan. He's very tall, got sharp suit, really great, amazing hair, but also really loves typography and amazing craftsmanship that he
that's
does.
a whole other thing, talking about the design of the book. But whatever's happened, we were incredibly fortunate that we got the designer we wanted, and he has been amazing, and then everything we wanted. They didn't like the cover.
They wanted our names to be bigger, and we're like, nobody actually cares. At the end of the day, you know, the people, if they know your work, then that's fine, they'll buy it. They don't need to have your name writ large on the cover. And if they don't know about you, then
you want it to be black.
You need something to be just as beautiful as it can be to really catch someone's eye. So the two things, Dan's pitch to us to be our designer was to come up with the cloak, this is the special edition of the book, which has this cover on, and the cover is just absolutely wonderful, and it's laminated inside. I've done terrible things to mine already, like taking it for walks in the rain, so it's looking a bit tatty, but because the inside is laminated, it's actually holding up. And then this was the portal, as he described it. So he had straight away, he'd done a rare thing that designers don't always do, which is read the words and understand the project. And he really got it. And now that should be a given, but believe me, 40 years in publishing, it's a rarity.
There's another thing that I just remembered, because we did a podcast together, it's maybe even a year
Mostly
ago.
we talked about our mugs, didn't we? Because we all had really nice coffee mugs.
Yeah, exactly. But I was just thinking about that and about how what you were really describing was sort of the most Stone Club book ever, because you were describing stone into sand and sand into glass.
Yeah.
So when you're creating these stories and you're creating these pieces of art, you're actually, they're made out of stone and then published as well.
Yeah, and also just aside from that, I went to there's just been a dig at Arthur's Stone in Herefordshire, which is probably the last one they're going to be allowed to do. And I gave a copy of the book to the dig, but I had to give it to a person, so I gave it to Professor Julian Thomas, I think his name was, who was very kind of excited but also a bit shy, so he just sort of hid it in his car. It did come out later and it has been read around the fire and everything, but they just found some glass, around the stone, and it probably isn't that old, it probably is medieval. But then they were talking about other things they'd found, pottery shards and things, and saying that this is probably where the Romans went for a picnic. And I just love that idea that to the Romans it was an ancient site, but that glass has been around for a long time. Yeah.
I really want to listen to that podcast, because we were young and hopeful then, and we still had a publisher, and I want to listen to what we said. And if we do it again, it'll be very different.
Another observation really is about the love of everything that you've done with this project, and the friendship is clearly evident. I think everyone will recognise that tonight. It feels like a really special thing. I mean, you mentioned before about working with Rob McFarlane and other collaborators, and you both worked with all sorts of different people, and then all of a sudden you have this very ancient sort of idea of bartering with each other about sort of handing things over, and now we end up with this. So is this a beginning? Like, what is next for the two of you? Have you got any ideas? Have you got any plans? Anything you can share?
I can tell you a story. So Tamsin and I went to, were we staying in Mounsey?
Yeah, we were staying
we were staying in Mounsey, where the White Hare's Tale is set. And I've been thinking, as you do, and we were driving back. Tamsin was driving and I was just sat in the passenger seat, and I'm aware that it's not been a pleasant experience at times working with the person who used to be the publisher that used to be our publisher. So, and she's also seen me struggle for 40 years with many things in publishing that are really not that good. It's quite a toxic world, really, and it's not been easy all the way. And yet I still love books. I turn to books as a harbour. When things have got too much with the publisher, I turn to stories and I lose myself in them. So I was saying to Tamsin as she was driving, do you know the story of Blodeuwedd? The woman who, she was taken as flowers from a hillside to be made into the perfect wife for a magician's nephew. So she was the perfect wife for him. She didn't ask to be picked. She didn't ask not to be flowers. She didn't ask to become human. And while she was the perfect wife for him, he possibly was not the perfect husband for her. She fell in love with somebody else and decided to kill her husband, which, is a little bit radical, but when you've grown up as flowers on the hill, I think you can be forgiven for having a lapse in ethics, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. And her punishment for this was to be turned into an owl. Now, Alan Garner's mantra in the owl service was she would always rather be flowers than owl, but he's a man. And myself, I would always rather be owl than flowers, because I would rather have wings and claws and hunt any day. And I think women sit in two camps on that. Can we have a hands up for the owls, please? And can we have a hands up for the flowers? Oh, what's a few flowers? Are you a flower? You didn't say flowers.
Oh,
right. Because what comes next will belie that fact, okay? So I was thinking, this woman, she's been everything. She's been flowers on the hill. She's tasted sunshine through her petals. She knows the language of the chemical soil beneath the ground. She became a woman. She fell in love, and she had at least one night of passion with her lover. And maybe when she was turned into an owl, she was pregnant. So possibly she laid some eggs. And maybe these eggs, because of their mother's journey, the children of the owl woman, or the daughters of the owl woman, could also be all things. And I was telling Tamsin this, it's like going fishing. It's like, cast it out there, try and reel her back into books, try and this time with a proper publisher and actually getting paid, be nice. What was it you said, Tamsin? About the women who could be all things?
If they could be all things, then they could be owl, and then they could wreak revenge or vengeance.
Yeah, they could wreak vengeance. This is what Tamsin said. I said, well, actually, Tamsin, I was more thinking that, in this day and age when we need to understand other species more, perhaps they could act between a bridge and the more than human world to help us find a better way forward. So I think that kind of sums up both of our characters. Here you have vengeance, and I'm just I don't know. Actually, I want claws, so maybe I'm with Tamsin as well. Yeah. So that offspring, I think, of wild folk. There are many stories, folk stories, that end at the beginning, really, and I think that's where we are. We've ended one thing, but we're at the beginning of something else, and it might not be a book, it might be an exhibition. We might steer well clear of the toxic world of publishing, but we might not.
Well, every month we choose a book of the month with Stone Club, and this month our book of the month is Wild Folk. So there are good things that come from publishing. And the beautiful thing about all of this is that there are copies of the book.
There are copies of the book, and we're getting our hands on them as well, so that we can sell them, so that we can actually earn some money, which would be nice after 2 years' work, really. Yes.
And we have some copies tonight, and you'll sign them for people.
I'll sign anything except cheques.
Thank you so much, Tamsin Abbot, Jackie Morris. Thank you all for being here as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and being in this kind of being in the darkness with us.
Yeah. An amazing book and well worth checking out. And there's some at the back, so get there quickly. Actually, we're going to be back here.